Herzlich willkommen, Leute, zum Cem Goom und Mike Van Dyke Flat Earth spricht Truth Channel. Heute sprechen wir über Sterne an sich. Was sind Sterne? Es gibt die sogenannten Wandersterne, Mars, Venus. Ich schaue dafür nochmal extra ein bisschen nach, damit ich keinen Scheiß verbreiten. So, was sind Wandersterne? So. Nicht echt nur so, weil ich zeige euch das so. Also jetzt sage ich das nochmal da. So. Cool. Also da schauen wir jetzt einmal. Da steht mit einer Wandersterne. Das Wort Planeten kommt vom altgriechischen Wort Planetes, was Wanderer bedeutet, und das griechische Wort für Stern ist Aster, und so bedeutet Aster wandernde Sterne, und so nannten die Griechen die Planeten. Was ist ein wandernder Stern? Der Wandelgestirnen versteht man in Beobachtung Astronomie jene Gestirne, deren Position sich in kurzen Zeiträumen merklich verändert. Dazu zählen die Planeten, die sogenannten Wandelsterne, der Mond, die Sonne sowie Asteroiden und Kometen. Ich glaube nicht an Asteroiden und Planeten, warum sollten die leuchten? Fixsterne, auf die Antike zurückgehende Bezeichnung für alle am Himmel scheinbar feststehenden Sterne, im Gegensatz zu Planeten oder Wandersterne, deren Positionsänderung am Himmel mit bloßem Auge beobachten werden kann. Gut, also es ist einmal so, dass wir ja Sterne haben und Sternzeichen. Das weiß ja jeder. Ich bin zum Beispiel im Dezember geboren. Ja. Ich kann euch das gut allerdings sagen. Es ist so einfach die beste Ding, was zu präsentieren. So, also ich bin ja der Überzeugung, dass die Erde flach ist und nicht rund ist. Zu 100%. Sprich, das da im Äußeren, ich zeige mich das ein bisschen besser. Das Außer ist die Antarktis im Süden. Da in der Mitte ist der Nordpol. Die Sonne kreist in 24 Stunden einmal rundherum und geht das ist der innere Fischkreis, zum Äquator und zum, wie heißt es, Tropical of Cancer, also zum Steinbock da nach außen. Das heißt, beim Steinbock, wenn die Sonne da ist, an dem äußeren Kreis, die wandert zwischen den zwei Kreise. Das macht die Jahreszeiten. Wenn die Sonne da ist, haben wir im Norden Sommer. Wenn sie dann wieder wegwandert, so wie jetzt, ist sie ungefähr am Äquator. Da wird dann schon Herbst und wenn sie da draußen ist, haben wir halt Winter. Nicht? Und ja, so geschehen auch die Gezeiten nicht, sozusagen, also Herbst, Winter, Sommer nicht. Ja, mir geht es eigentlich auch zu sagen, mal, was sind die Sterne? Also, wenn ich jetzt da stehe, nicht bei der Sonne, ich weiß nicht, wo sind wir jetzt gerade? Ein bisschen neben Afrika, nicht? Wenn ich dort stehen würde, nicht? Und ich schaue hinauf und ich sehe irgendein Sternzeichen, dann ist es in einem Jahr genau wieder da, in einem Jahr. Und das sind die Sternzeichen. Was? So, das ist manchmal wichtig, dass ihr versteht, das ist für uns der Kompass. Süden ist alles im äußeren Bereich. Süden ist auf die Art eine hohe Berge, die das Wasser quasi ja, wie ein Ende von einem Teich quasi ist die Antarktis. Das vermuten wir jetzt einmal nicht. Und im Norden ist die Mitte und Westen und Osten geht im Kreis. Das heißt, man hat die Welt schon umrundet, aber nur im Kreis. Keiner ist im Süden oben rausgekommen und ist im Süden unten wieder auftaucht. Das hat noch keiner geschafft. So, weil es eben nicht möglich ist. Jetzt zeige ich noch ein Sternzeichen dazu. Tun wir die Dinge weg. Das ist das, was ich meine. Also ich mache es jetzt einmal auf schneller, damit ihr seht, die Sterne, ich tue euch das da her, die Sterne, das Sternbild dreht sich mit uns mit, das schauen immer gleich aus, also die verändern sich nicht. Es gibt ein paar Wandersterne, das habe ich gesagt, Mars, Saturn, Venus, glaube ich. Ich müsste mir da genauer ein bisschen einlesen, damit ich kein Blödsinn rede. Aber ich weiß zum Beispiel, der Nordstern, genau über dem Nordpol, der bewegt sich keinen Zentimeter. Der wird eben zur Navigation sehr, sehr oft genutzt. Deswegen wird es, desto weiter du in den Süden fährst, sehr schwer mit der Navigation. Wenn du dich mit den Sternen nicht auskennst, hast du keine Chance. Also die Sterne sind ein einziger Wegleiter dann. Da reden wir über die Gleasons Map und so, da steht das alles drin. Da steht drin, wo die Sonne gerade ist, wo der Mond gerade ist, wo die Sterne sich gerade befinden. Sonst könnte man sich im Ozean nicht navigieren. Wäre nicht möglich, gibt kein GPS dort oder was. So. Mach es euch ein bisschen langsamer. Also da seht ihr es. Ich weiß. Aber so, das ist wo die Sonne sich gerade befindet, also in den Sternzeichen, sagt man, sagen wir gerade nicht. Was ist jetzt? Genau. Genau, die Waage. Mein Bruder hat nämlich in der Waage Geburtstag. Ist in der Waage. Und ja, die Sterne seien, glaube ich, schon oder langsamer. Das muss ich da noch schneller stellen. Aber die Sterne sind langsamer wie die Sonne, also definitiv langsamer wie die Sonne, gehen aber immer im Kreis um die Erde. Gehen immer im Kreis. Gut, das wollte ich euch nochmal schnell zu dem, also schnelles Modell einfach zeigen. Und jetzt zeige ich euch richtige Aufnahmen von Sternen, nicht NASA. Ich zeige euch einmal von NASA-Sterne. Ja. Sterne, NASA. So, was kriegen wir da? Bilder. Das teile ich mit euch sehr gerne. Das ist eine Schande. Sterne, NASA. So. Bilder bitte. Man schaut euch das Comedy an. Schaut euch den Fantasiespaß da an. Meistens auch echtes Fotos dabei, bitte. Schaut euch sowas mal an. Das ist eine schöne Kunst, ja, ein Traum, ich habe auch dran geglaubt, aber ja, da so ein, ja, das nächste Mondlandung nie stattgefunden hat. Nie. Wacht's auf, wirklich. Die wissen auch nicht mehr, außer wo die Sterne sind, wie sie sich verhalten, in welchen Kreis sie gehen und dass es Lichter sind. Die können nicht da einen Laser aufschießen und sagen, der ist 3 Milliarden Lichtjahre entfernt und das ist eine Sonne oder irgendwas. Woher sollen die das wissen? Das geht nicht. Versteht's? Das geht nicht. Das nächste ist, da kommt das zweite Gesetz der Aerodynamik. Man kann kein also Luftdrucksystem neben einem Vakuumsystem haben, was ja die NASA behauptet, dass im Weltall Vakuum minus 11 Tor, 11 Tor ist die Einheit. Wir schaffen auf der Erde gerade mal 1 Tor nachzuahmen, ja, also an Schwerelosigkeit. Das ist aber ein riesen Betonbunker von der NASA. Das ist zum Beispiel ein Heliumballon, der an Satelliten haltet. Satelliten schweben nur an Heliumballonen. Deswegen ist die NASA der größte Abnehmer von Helium auf der Welt. Schaut euch das Video davor an, da geht es eben um 2,5 vorher, glaube ich, sind es. Da geht es um Heliumballone. Ja, es ist halt, ich habe früher auch dran geglaubt, nicht? An die Sterne und an die schönen Sachen und alles, nicht? Ich meine, allein schon das Teleskop, wie hat das geheißen? Teleskop, also, ich weiß nicht, ob wir Bilder gemacht haben, nicht? Das Hubble heißt, genau. Wieso drehen sie es nicht um und schießen Fotos von der Erde? Ne? Wieso nur das Lichter? Ne? Versteht's? Das ist alles, das ist eine schöne Kunst und eine Malerei. Jetzt sage ich euch aber mal richtige Sterne. Und das hat bei Gott nichts zu tun, dass der schircher sind. Und ganz im Gegenteil. Also, ich zeige euch da, es ist jetzt der Jupiter, Mond, Mod, Queen. Keine Ahnung. Also, der nimmt der. Hast du es gesehen? Wunderschön, ja. Also, das war noch einer von den Worten zum Mal, da gehen wir jetzt zu ihm. Da können wir auch mal den Mond anschauen. So wunderschön. Also, mir hat es echt geflasht, wie du das gesehen hast. Das war schön. Hallo, willkommen. Der Link ist bereits drin. Entschuldigung, ich bin ein bisschen verkühlt. So, natürlich schaue ich gleich zurück wieder. Das war mal ein Auszug vom Mond. Der hat so super Aufnahmen drin. Also der heißt 5389. Und das sind die NASA ihre Aufnahmen nicht. Also da schaue ich mal lieber. Das ist die Wahrheit. schön. Jeder ist willkommen. Ja, super ist der Schiman. Es gibt in der Like halt auf jeden Fall. Er hat's verdient dann. Seinen Store, der 5444. Das ist eine schöne Auswahl, die Sachen. Finde ich schon. Muss ich ehrlich sagen. Ich schaue gerade für euch, ob irgendwer Interessantes online wäre. Leider, ich hau dann ein paar Channels rein, die wirklich sehenswert sind. Gell? Also, was der Sharing is Caring und so weiter und so fort. Gut, ich bin aber noch nicht fertig. Da hat man noch wirklich klasse Sachen. Schön mal durch heute Montag, da ist er schön. Fasziniert mich so. Oder reicht es nicht zu sagen, dass man es nicht weiß, dass es einfach was Wunderschönes ist? Und ich habe früher genauso an das ganze Weltall geglaubt. Glaubt's mir's natürlich, aber es ist unmöglich einfach. Das zweite Gesetz, genau von der Aerodynamik. Warte, ich lasse das ein bisschen laut. Jo, das war das. Schau ich mir darüber es gibt. Das wird wirklich sehr sehenswert. Also dann bleiben wir bei der Sonne. Ja. Also die Sonne, sage ich ja, sie umkreist die Erde, ja. Sie geht in einen kreisförmigen Ding nicht und geht zwischen dem inneren Kreis und dem äußeren Kreis, also im Kreis der Fische und Kreis der Steinbock ist hin und her und dazwischen liegt halt auch der Äquator. Ne? So, jetzt zeige ich euch, wie die Sonne eben weggeht und nicht.
Day after day, alone on a hill, the man with the foolish grin.
Und natürlich, die Glauber kommen immer mit, ja, dann würden wir ja Paris sehen und alles. Wir sehen nicht für immer, wir sehen weit und alles. Aber irgendwann ist die Sicht unseres Auges ausgeschöpft und es kommt zum Horizont. Nicht? Das ist wie, wenn du da einen Energiemasten stehen hast, also einen Strommasten, einen zweiten, einen dritten, einen vierten, die werden immer kleiner, nicht? Bis in der Mitte dann gar nichts mehr ist. Nicht? Da kommt alles zusammen, das ist dann unser Ende von der Sicht. Aber der ist auch gerade.
And is keeping perfectly still. Nobody wants to know him. They can see that he's just.
Und die Sonne ist halt so, es gibt ein Sonnenlicht, ja, also wenn die Sonne über uns ist quasi, dann hast du ein Sonnenlicht, aber es gibt auch kein das Licht, wenn die Sonne nicht zum Sehen ist, sondern nur die Atmosphäre quasi von der Sonne angeregt wird. Nicht? Das ist ein anderes Licht, nicht? Aber da sieht man eben jetzt, wie die Sonne von uns weggeht und nicht unter.
Just a fool, and he never gives an answer, but the fool on the hill sees the sun going down in the eye.
Wunderschön, die zieht ihre Kreise um uns. 24 Stunden, deswegen haben wir auch eine Zeitmessung und alles. Wenn du auf einen Punkt schaust, da ist die Sonne, am nächsten Tag wieder, kannst du sicher sein, dass die Sonne wieder da ist. Der Mond läuft ein bisschen anders, das müssen wir nachschauen.
Eyes in his head, see the world spinning around. Well on the wave, hid in a cloud, the land of 1,000 voices talking perfectly loud, but nobody ever hears him or the sound he appears to make. And he never seems to notice, but the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning around.
Irgendwann halt durch die Atmosphäre und durch die ganzen Teilchen in der Luft, irgendwann registrieren wir die Sonne. Ja, wir Drohnenaufnahmen, also.
Nobody seems to like him. They can tell what he wants to do, and he never shows his feelings, but the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning around and around, spinning around.
Und weg ist er.
And he never listens to.
Und das ist das Gleiche, was ich meine mit der Sonne.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaronism, back with another video for you today. Going to quickly cover the worst globe proof there is, Eratosthenes. And Jed Skeptic Media recently covered this subject, but I feel What's going on, everyone? It's Jaronism, back with another video for you today. Going to quickly cover the worst globe proof there is, Eratosthenes. And Jed Skeptic Media recently covered this subject, but I feel I have to correct some of the errors. So, Jed, Take it away.
How could you prove the shape of the Earth without looking at images from space?
We could look at water. It lies level and flat, always has, always will.
Deswegen hat man eine Wasserwaage. Also Wasser findet immer seine gerade Fläche, egal wie es unterhalb ausschaut.
Well, a Greek named Eratosthenes did it 300 years BC.
Ah, man, I'm sorry about that one. He was actually born in 276 BC. So you have him at about 24 years premature, which would be pretty impressive, but I don't think it's the case.
He suspected the world was round. After all, the sun and the moon are round. He also noticed the sun's rays fell in parallel lines.
Oh, really? Did he notice that? Because
Schaut euch das einmal an. Nicht? Also da sieht man, wie lokal, also nahe die Sonne ist. Nicht? Weil sonst wäre sowas nicht möglich. Nicht? Sonst hätte man die Ding viel gerader und viel komplett flächig. Nicht? Also sieht man eben, wie lokal die Sonne ist. Das sieht man eben selber, das ist das Schöne.
as all their observations would have told them in 275 BC that those beams of sunlight come from a close sun. In fact, Eratosthenes thought the sun was close. So, no way he thought that.
Es ist eben auch nicht so, wie viele glauben, dass die Sonne, wenn sie scheint, quasi die ganze Welt beleuchten wird. Nein, das ist nicht der Fakt. Sie beleuchtet circa die Hälfte, circa. Also sie ist viel lokaler und sie wandert auch noch zwischen Norden und Südpol hin und her.
They came in parallel lines.
While looking through a scroll one day, he read that at noon, on the longest day of the year, a vertical column cast no shadow in Syene, a city south of Alexandria. Eratosthenes knew that this did not happen in Alexandria.
Ja, der hat ja ein Experiment gemacht, aber hat genau das Gegenteil damit bewiesen. Zweimal gesehen. Mit dem Schatten.
He thought to himself, how is it possible to have shadows in Alexandria and not in Syene at the same time of the day?
Oh, easy. When you have a small local sun, everything works out exactly the same.
Das Video ist von Sharon, ist aber auch schon lange her, wahrscheinlich. 4 Jahre, ja.
Eratosthenes figured out that the sun must be directly overhead in Syene, but not in Alexandria. Aha! Here was the proof that the Earth's surface is curved.
Wait, what?
Here was the proof that the Earth's surface is curved. That the Earth's surface is curved.
Das ist so was, für mich sind das nichts anderes wie, die wissen sehr wohl, die haben halt eine Art, wie soll ich sagen, ich bin abgelogen worden, nicht? Also das heliozentrische Weltbild eingeführt, was irgendwie ein bisschen Sinn macht, aber was leider überhaupt nicht stimmt, wir sind angenommen.
Proof.
No.
Proof.
No.
Proof.
No.
He thought to himself, how is it possible to have shadows in Alexandria and not in Syene at the same time of the day?
All right, so I guess I'll explain it again. If you look here on the screen, we've got Syene and we've got Alexandria, and let's say we've got 500 miles between them, and you'll see.
Wenn die Sonne wirklich sehr weit weg wäre, dann würde der Schatten gleich sein. Aber wenn sie lokaler ist, nicht, und dann hast du halt so abgebildet. Da hast du fast keinen Schatten und da hast du halt einen Schatten gegeben.
The small local sun above the first pillar, which causes the second pillar to have a shadow, yet it's sitting on a plane, not on a sphere.
If the angle was 1/50th of a circle, then the distance around the world must be 50 times the distance from Alexandria to Syene.
Well, Jed, we appreciate it, but Eratosthenes, much like the bottom of your beloved globe, holds no weight. Next, we have a teacher trying to explain this garbage. Make sure you watch right at the beginning here, and you can actually see the moment that he realizes what he's teaching doesn't really make sense at all.
And Eratosthenes realized that if you were to extend this ray of light coming in at Syene, it would go all the way to the center of the Earth, if you were to extend that line. And he realized that if you were to extend this ray of light coming in at Alexandria, it would miss the center of the Earth. But the pole setup, which was vertical, if you were to extend that line, it would go to the center of the Earth.
Well, yes, I guess if you were on a ball, you might have those things happen. So now you can see part of the problem here. when the globe needs parallel rays, they use parallel rays. But as soon as an eclipse comes, well, now they need to use angled rays, as seen in this image. Not too hard to deceive people when you get to set the rules. And for all you who put so much faith into this Eratosthenes character, please take a look at his Wikipedia, which clearly says that it was unlikely, even accounting for his extremely primitive measuring tools, that Eratosthenes could have calculated an accurate measurement for the circumference of the Earth. He made 5 important assumptions, none of which, notice again, none of which are perfectly accurate. Number 1, the distance between Alexandria and Cyrene being 5,000 stadia. Number 2, that Alexandria is due north of Syene, which it's not. Number 3, that Syene lies in the Tropic of Cancer.
Ja, also Baby ist not im Prinzip gar nichts.
Which it doesn't. Number 4, that the Earth is a perfect sphere, which it's nowhere near. And number 5, the light rays emanating from the sun are parallel. So even Wikipedia, your go-to holy book, admits it. All right, what I hope people notice by researching this stuff is that clearly you have to give up your belief in Eratosthenes and most of his evidence. Also, you need to realize that your religion is as bogus as Joseph Smith and his golden plates. So let's start the final nails into the coffin. Number 1, Eratosthenes was the head librarian and scholar at the Library of Alexandria around 250 to 200 BC. We also have Heron the Elder from Alexandria, not many years after Eratosthenes, and he also lives and was from Alexandria. Now he wrote the number 3 that we get.
Und von da was kriegen. So, beim
How to claim
Dom
your free dome
geht
shot.
es mir um Folgendes. Ne? Wenn man ein Luftdrucksystem hat, ne? Neben einem Vakuumsystem, ne? Dann wäre das so, wenn ich keine fixe Barriere drum hätte, würde das Vakuum sofort die Luft raussaugen und ein Gleichgewicht herstellen. Also es wäre bei uns auch ein Vakuum. Da wir aber eine fixe Barriere rundherum haben, oder auch nicht, ich weiß ja nicht, ob es oben ich glaube nicht an einen Space, also an ein Vakuum, aber in der Bibel steht es auch geschrieben, dass es ein Atom gibt. Und ja, also es geht gar nicht anders, wenn da wirklich ein Vakuum ist, dann brauchst du eine fixe Barriere, sonst hätten wir keine Atmosphäre unten bei uns nicht. Also wir könnten die Bäume nichts herstellen und so weiter und so fort. Das wäre alles sofort ausgesagt. Nicht? Also wenn man eine Welthalle haben will, dann braucht man eine fixe Barriere, wie ein Atom oder irgendwas.
Tokens. Simply download the MetaMask app from your app store. After installing, copy your wallet address by clicking the copy icon. Then go to the Flat Earth Clock app and open the Friend Finder. Then open the referral section by clicking the middle button on the upper left. Don't forget to customize your referral code so it's easy to remember. Then simply paste your MetaMask address in the MetaMask field.
Ja, die App hat
That's
mir
it.
viel geholfen.
From the beginning of time until
Muss ich ehrlich sagen. Aber wirklich irgendwo das mit
Good evening, everyone. I thought I'd make a really quick, simple video on
Regenbogen sind so wunderschön mit den gebogenen. Ja.
rainbows. Now, a lot of you, your whole life, have always wondered why that rainbow is in the shape of a dome. Why is it always arched? Okay, what I'm going to be showing you in this video is how that rainbow is formed, what causes that rainbow, and also at the same time, what causes the double rainbow above it. And it's really simple. Now, science will tell you that a rainbow is caused by sunlight and atmospheric conditions. Light enters a water droplet, slowing down and bending as it goes from air to denser water. The light reflects off the inside of the droplet, separating into its component wavelengths. or colors. When light exits the droplet, it makes a rainbow. Okay, now for the
So viel verstanden, ja. Aber jetzt möchte ich nur ganz kurz. SpaceX ist für mich ganz komisch. SpaceX, immer bei ihren Raketen sieht man wirklich, dass man eben einen Dom haben und nicht durchkommen. Also da zeige ich jetzt auch wieder. Besonders SpaceX, weil
Well, Dave,
die NASA-Raketen haben immer den großen Dom gemacht. Das machen die SpaceX nicht, die gehen gerade auf.
the SpaceX Falcon 9 is going to launch from Vandenberg Air Force Base, and it's going to launch in just about.
Entschuldigung.
Well, Dave, the SpaceX Falcon 9 is going to launch from Vandenberg Air Force Base, and it's going to launch in just about a minute, maybe a little less here, and we should be able to see it right here in our night sky. And what's going to be very cool is because the sun isn't completely down on the West Coast, we should then see the sun hit the rocket. I'm going to get out of the way just in case this thing launches so that we can see it when it does. It's scheduled to launch at 5:27 and 23 seconds. Right now, I've got just shortly after 5:27, so we are waiting right now. This should be coming up at any moment, so we just have to keep our eyes on it. This is part of the Iridium 4 mission, and so what this Falcon 9 is it's a rocket that they use to launch communication satellites into the air and to get those into space. And these are really extraordinary because this particular type of rocket can actually take off and land. And there it is. You can see it right there. That red flare
Ja,
off
da geht's ja auf, ne?
in the distance. That is it going straight up. That's
Genau, danke, er sagt gerade nach oben, nicht wie bei NASA immer gut.
all the way from Vandenberg. That is extraordinary that we can see that from this far away. Just absolutely incredible right there. And it's going to go pretty high. Watch it go. And shortly we should see that sun hit it in just a bit. You can just see it rising.
Da sagt er sogar das, oder was? Warte mal, es wird ziemlich hoch gehen, es geht los und in Kürze sollten wir sehen, dass die Sonne
That sun hit it in just a bit.
und in Kürze sollten wir sehen, dass die Sonne ein wenig näher rückt zu uns sehen.
You see it rising straight up from the horizon. There we go. It's starting to tilt a little bit. Gosh, what a sight to see.
Nein, es hat
And one of
bisher
the
nie
few
in den
things
Daumen
that
fort.
I guess we'd all be very happy to say that we saw right as the year was coming to a close. And look at how just immensely bright it is. And again, all the way from Vandenberg, so far away, traveling so quickly
Ich weiß nicht, wieso Elon Musk das macht.
through the night sky. And with sunset not even complete, just an absolute beautiful sight here. And look, and here's where we're going to see the sun hit it as it gets high enough. Absolutely extraordinary. It's like a shooting star in reverse. Now, I want to mention that this Falcon 9 is capable of actually carrying
Jetzt das
10
Blaue.
satellites.
Jungs, sagt jetzt trinkt es in den Dom ein. Was es auch immer ist, ich weiß es nicht. Ich würde sagen, ja, Wasser wie oben, wie unten. Steht ja in der Bibel, ein Vers. Aber irgendwas trifft die Rakete, wo sie nicht durchkommt.
Into space. So this thing is massive in its own right. And
Der Himmel kriegt von Ort Schaden, aber repariert sich quasi auch selber.
such a great thing to be watching here. And here we go. Now you see the sun hitting. And look at that. Really
Das hat
taking
NASA nie gezeigt. Das zeigt immer nur
off now.
SpaceX.
My goodness. And now you'll see it continue to shine through the night sky as it hits another thrust set right there. Just see the trail it's leaving behind. Absolutely amazing. And to describe it to you, and you can see it, but
kann es gar nicht gescheit erklären, was er da sieht. Also für seine
from the ground,
Vorstellung. Oder was es?
it almost looks as though a cloud of smoke with its own mind is just shooting through the sky.
Das ist so wunderschön, oder?
Absolutely incredible. Again, you're watching the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launch from Vandenberg Air Force Base. This visible from Bakersfield. Absolutely incredible. And at this point, it looks amazing, but at this point, I really couldn't tell you what exactly is happening because space travel isn't exactly my line of expertise. So hold on to this shot for as long as you want. But Dave Rochelle, when you're ready to take it away, please be my guest.
Und ich habe eingegeben SpaceX Downhit. Hallo, herzlich willkommen. Hey, PJ, nice to be here. Yo. I hope you're doing fine.
Look at the vapor trail left behind by that. Just amazing. And it's still, you can still see it. There.
Just looking the crazy dome hit from SpaceX, you know.
There it is, still shining through. That was an absolute treat. That was a great way to end off the year. I hope all of you enjoyed it as much as we did here.
You doing good, Peter? Everything all right? You go live today? Okay, so was das. Und ich wollte euch zeigen wegen den Regenbogen, also wegen unseren Sachen.
For the most part, that's true. But what they're not telling you is that the raindrops
Die Sterne
are
befinden
only
sich
there to work as a screen
davon aus.
to capture what's being projected. Okay? Now, in order to understand this, you have to be able to understand what refraction is. Refraction. Deflection from a straight path undergone by a light ray or energy wave and passing obliquely from one medium, such as air, into another, such as glass, in which its velocity is different. Now, here's an example of refraction. The white light has to pass through a prism, which is usually a glass or a crystal or a mirror, and cause the colors to come out, which, as you can see here, I'll break it down for you. The prism would be a glass of some sort, and it has to hit that glass and refract, which will make the colors, as you can see here in the rainbow. Okay. Now that you understand what refraction is, I'm going to show you how this rainbow is formed.
Thanks for that.
Now, what you got to tell yourself is, and we all know this, we've never seen a straight rainbow. We've never seen a rainbow going up, down, or down to up, or left to right, or even diagonally. It's always in the shape of an arch, in the shape of a dome. So here's what you have to remember. The white light is reflecting through a prism, which has to be glass, something of a glass form. So whatever that sunlight is hitting, when you see that rainbow, it's the shape of the prism that it...
Like we saw here.
Well,
It wasn't.
Rains. The raindrops act as a screen, like if you were projecting a movie. The movie could be playing through the projector all day, but if it doesn't have a screen to reflect off of, you can't see it. But what you have to realize is the rainbow is always there. But the
Also,
only
ich
time you
glaube,
see it
ihr
is
habt
when it rains,
verstanden, es gibt der
because the rain acts.
Strom über uns, ja, der das Vakuum, oder wenn es angeblich ein Vakuum gibt, von uns trennt, ja. Sonst würde es nicht funktionieren. Deswegen, weil mir geht es wirklich sehr darum, dass die Dinge sagt. Das geht es mir wirklich. Er hat so super Aufnahmen, also das ist fantastisch, ehrlich. Ich liebe es. Das sind auch echte Sterne, also. Ja, der Shorter, ne? Aber das ist nicht das Problem. Aber sie sind so schön zum Anschauen, deswegen muss ich ein paar präsentieren. Mond haben wir schon gehabt. 6 für mehr. Lichter. 2000, schauen wir mal. Schau, vor 3 Tagen. Cool. Fantastisch. Einen muss ich echt mal zeigen. Also abonniert gerne Jim Anis, werde ich dann auch noch einen Link rein tun. Er ist echt super. Vor 2 Tagen 1885. So, dann gehen wir noch ein bisschen zum Firmament nochmal zurück. Schauen wir, das ist fertig. Warum nicht?
Says the screen, like right here. Check this out. There's always a rainbow out here. Now, if I take this water hose and I turn it on a mist, that mist makes a screen of water across the air. And it shows the rainbow, the reflection. Notice even right here where I'm at, it's still shaped like a dome. It's rounded because that's the shape of the prism that the sun is reflecting off of to give us this rainbow. It's really, really simple, folks. And like I said, it's in 3D also. You know, no matter which way you turn, that rainbow's always there as long as you got that mist of water to give you your screen. So, are you with me so far? And if you are, now I'm going to take you deeper into the rabbit hole. Now, you thought you were awake before? After I show you this, you're really going to be awake. Okay, here we have a rainbow over the ocean. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is the reflection of the rainbow over the water. Notice how the colors are inverted, which means reversed, backwards. Notice how the colors go backwards from the original rainbow on its reflection in the water. So we know in our simple common sense that that's a reflection of the rainbow, so it automatically reverses the colors. Just like if you and I looked in the mirror, the left side of our face would be the right side of our face, right? Okay, now that you understand that, Look at the double rainbow. Look at the rainbow on the outside of the original rainbow. Notice how the colors are reversed, just like they were when you seen the rainbow over water. That's because the firmament is the glass prism showing the reflection of the original rainbow. That's why the colors are backwards. Now, as you can see here, I've made a rainbow of colors on a piece of paper, but I'm showing you how the colors invert, how they reverse when I hold it in front of a mirror. Therefore, proving, just like you've seen over water, when those colors are reversed, that's the reflection of the rainbow in the firmament above. Now, if we look up how to make a rainbow inside, here's what it tells us. We need a flashlight or a sunny day, a mirror at least 5 by 5, a pan of water, a CD, and a prism. We use this one, Kedco Light Crystal Prism 2.5. Now, here we go. I'm going to go through this really quick. We're going to fill the bowl of water. We're going to use the mirror. You have to remember that the mirror is flat. It's straight and flat. So therefore, our rainbow, which is going to reflect on the wall, which would be your raindrops, your mist, which would be your screen. Check this out. It's going to be a straight rainbow, a straight line, okay? Because it's a straight, flat mirror. Now check this out. If I take a round dome-shaped glass and let the sunlight shine through it, guess what I get? A rounded, arched, dome-shaped rainbow.
Ja, also der hat gerade genau bewiesen, dass, also wenn wir einen Daumen drüber hätten, dann verhalten sich die Regenbogen genauso, wie sie sich eben auch jetzt in Realität verhalten. Und wenn wir flache, also etwas Flaches oben hätten, wäre der Regenbogen auch flach dort.
Oh, just like you see every time it rains, because the raindrops give you a screen to see what's projecting from above. But even though I've made a double rainbow here, it's not inverted. The colors are not reversed because there's no reflection like you see here where the colors are reversed, because what you are looking at is a reflection of the rainbow in the glass firmament above, just like you see the reflection of the rainbow in the waters below it. It's just a reflection. And just like I showed you before, the rainbow is always there. You just need a screen to capture it, just like you always need a movie screen to capture what's being projected out of the projector. The movie that's being projected, it's always there, but you need a screen to capture it, like you see right here. So like I said, whenever you see that double rainbow, what they call a double rainbow, all you're looking at is a reflection of the rainbow, a mirrored image of the rainbow in the firmament above. God made the firmament to separate the waters below the firmament from the waters above the firmament. Everyone have a good night. Thanks for watching, and God bless.
Gut, das war das. Und jetzt wollte ich euch noch sagen, da geht es auch um den Daumen nochmal.
I picked flatter for the following reasons. For one, we might have a credible scientific explanation for the firmament. And if you click on this comment and watch the original video, you'll see what I mean. But to make a long story short, the ozone layer is comprised of O3. O3 freezes into a solid at 4. I'm not a flat earther or a globe earther, but if you force me to pick one, I pick flat earth for the following reasons. For one, we might have a credible scientific explanation for the firmament.
So,
If you
das
click on
ist ganz wichtig, lest es euch durch, wenn es so.
this comment and watch the original video, you'll see what I mean. But to make a long story short, the ozone layer is comprised of O3. O3 freezes into a solid at 420 degrees below Fahrenheit. Outer space, and flat earthers, don't give me a hard time about that term. It's outer space. It's space out there. It's the best term we have. The temperature of outer space is negative 450 degrees Fahrenheit, making it colder than the freezing point of oxygen. Therefore, it's highly possible that that oxygen is freezing up there into a glass-like substance. When oxygen freezes, it turns a light blue. Now, if oxygen is freezing at the top layer that touches space, right below that, it would be liquid oxygen, which would, of course,
Hope you're doing good, Flat. Nice that you're in.
explain the waters above. So how would solid and liquid oxygen stay all the way up there? Well, as soon as it got warm, it turned into a gas, and then it just flowed up there. And then it get cold again and turn into water and ice. Here's where it gets really interesting. A lot of people will tell you that the rainbow is shaped like a bow because each individual water drop is circular. That's an absolute BS lie. The water provides a screen. The rainbow is always there. We just can't see it all the time. When the rainfall happens, then we see the rainbow. So the rainbow is always a bow. And why? Because the light that is emitted from the prism reflects the shape of the prism, because we live under a convex dome prism. Now, if you subscribe to the idea that the ice wall is all around the outside edges of the Earth, again, it would explain it connecting to the
Ich
frozen
glaube, für
firmament.
Bohr war das jetzt zu schnell, gell? Aber das ist genau der Punkt, was er da anspricht, wenn wir da nochmal zurückgehen.
Dome prism. Now, if you subscribe to the idea that the ice wall is all around the outside edges of the Earth, again, it would explain it connecting to the frozen firmament. When we get to the edge, we get to the coldest place, out in outer space. And why is it so cold? Well, people need to... There's lots of people saying that you can't have temperature without matter. That's absolutely untrue. You just can't measure it without matter. But mark my words, if you stuck your hand outside into space, it would freeze. So why does this happen? Because there's nothing energetic happening out there. Therefore, all the energy from your hand would leave and go out into space to try to equalize, right? Because nature, matter, tends to try to find equilibrium in energy, in states of matter, etc., etc. Heat is directly correlated to energy. When something is energized, it heats up, right? So when you heat up a molecule, everything gets faster in there and it starts vibrating, right? That's energy.
Das ist ja, was ich eben gemeint habe mit der Sonne, wo du es direkt hast, oder die Sonne, die ihre Sphäre oder Atmosphäre noch eben anreizt. Ne?
Requires energy for the molecule to vibrate. And the faster it vibrates, the more temperature it has, the more heat it has. So if you go out where there's no energy in outer space, which is very limited because all we're getting is the radiating energy from the sun, no convection, no conduction, matter is going to get frozen into its solid state very quickly, no matter what the matter is. All matter freezes into a solid state at 0 degrees Kelvin. Outer space is 5 degrees Kelvin. You only need 5 more degrees to be at absolute zero. And what happens at absolute zero? Time stops. Literally, time doesn't exist. Because what is time? Well, time is a construct created by human beings. And we use measurement devices to measure time.
Naja, ich meine, was denn mit der Sonne und so, ist die Zeit schon gegeben.
But those measurement devices need to be energized, whether it's hands on a clock or the rotation of electrons on a cesium atom. That requires energy to keep it into a cyclic state. It requires that energy. If there's no energy, if there's no temperature, then time doesn't pass. Interestingly enough, heaven is thought to be a timeless place. Well, technically, if heaven is outside of this firmament plane that we exist on, that it is in fact timeless if it gets to that place where there's no temperature. And for all the haters and trolls that are going to come into the comments and try to make fun of people that are interested in this theory, or if you just come and say, oh, you're dumb, but then don't explain yourself, understand that you're the one that looks like you're dumb. Looks like you're just trying to be the bully that doesn't understand something, like we're in grade school. I'm not saying I'm entirely right about all this, but these are some interesting ideas to play with, especially since most scientists up at the top lie to us all the time. We don't know who to trust. So we're speculating based on logic. So if you're interested in having a healthy conversation with another human being, ask some questions, have conversations in the comments. And if you're going to be a jerk and a bully because you can't wrap your head around these ideas, we're just going to block you.
Ja, that's gut. Und da wollte ich auch noch ein bisschen sagen über die sogenannten
300 to
Jetstreams,
400
die
miles
wir
per
haben.
hour on top of the speed of the aircraft. So are there planes that fly above 600 miles per hour? Yes, there are. Just look at the Air Force One. It flies at 606.
Fange ich das von vorher an. Also ein bisschen, aber er ist schon in Ordnung.
Doing fine today. Today is Thursday
Also,
here in Japan, about 10:46 a.m., February 22nd, 2024. Shout out to David Wise for sending me this article on jet streams. Near record winds over the Northeast push passenger planes to speeds over 800 miles per hour. This is a new article, February 19th, 2024. For some of you who have been with me for all these years, you know that I always bring up articles and news about jet streams. So this was not something that happened this time. It happens all the time, as we're gonna be looking at this closely right now. So what are the jet streams?
The jet streams are air currents of thousands of kilometers long, several hundred kilometers wide and several kilometers thick. These winds flow in a wavy west to east pattern at an altitude of about 10 to 15 kilometers. There are different types of this type of winds. There is for tropical jet stream. Aircrafts fly exactly at the height of the jet stream. If they move to the east, they have tailwind, and so they will fly much faster.
But we have this really cool phenomenon. If you like getting to your destination early when you're flying, something really cool happened with a recent transatlantic flight going from JFK to Heathrow. And they arrived an hour early because they were traveling nearly 800 miles an hour at about 30,000 feet or so. And the reason for that was the jet stream, which is kind of amplified right now. A jet streak they ran into. There's a
was wir
jet
da
stream.
eben sehen können, nicht, dass eben gewisse Jetstream heißen sie, also gewisse Winde unsere flache Erde immer umkreisen. Nicht? Das habe ich auch schon beim Satelliten gesagt, nicht, dass es alle Satelliten steuern, nicht, die auf die Ballons hängen. Und ja, es gibt halt verschiedene Jetstreams, da sind sie ein bisschen blöd aufgezeichnet, aber kann euch die kommt noch.
Streak, and it's going almost 200 miles an hour. So if you think about that, and
Ich
that's
mache das jetzt nicht mehr zu lange, ich zeige euch noch ein bisschen die Jetstreams und dann haue ich noch Flaten der Curve rein. Und es ist gut, um reinzukommen.
back of these planes. Let's talk to an expert about flying in winds like this. We're going to talk to Cap. He's a pilot captain. So nice to have.
It can be a real gift when you're looking at the clock and getting someplace. Right. If you're pointed in the right direction, Mother Nature can be a real assistant in getting you there quicker. Think of the winds like water. It'll help you as we talk of this. It's not that complicated.
You can be surprised at how fast
Da sieht man eben nicht, wie die Flugzeuge eben die Jetstreams auch nutzen. Nicht? So wie der geht jetzt in der Richtung, nicht? Ist verdammt schnell. Also was hat der Flieger normal bei die 300 km/h, so erreicht er halt bei die 500 km/h halt fast. Der ist ein bisschen da in einem leichteren Jetstream drin, 463 km/h. Nicht?
fast these winds can be at any time of the day in the upper layers of the
Gut
atmosphere.
Leute, aber Jetstream haben wir ja schon ein bisschen angeschaut. Ich wollte echt mit euch jetzt noch ganz gemütlich für den Abend, weil es ist ja schon 21 Uhr bald, einfach Flaten der Curve vorstellen. Ist eine tolle Dokumentation, um Flat Earth ein bisschen reinzukommen. Werde ich das auf Deutsch geben. Und schauen wir mal rein. Ich habe ihn selber noch nicht gesehen. Also.
We built this film on a foundation of love. Its purpose? To shatter the mental barriers constructed from a lifetime of indoctrination. The eyes are useless when the mind is blind. We are participants in a prison system we are unable to see. Once the veil is lifted, there is no turning back. Many of us rarely realize we are the victims of indoctrination. We follow the pre-planned layout of life, living in a state of confusion, controlled by a small group of individuals who possess great wealth, estate, and control. They monetarily benefit by keeping us blind to the true nature of the shape of the earth. Most are too busy to question what they are told or investigate the scientific theory about the physical world and its shape, wrongly taught in schools as fact. Inquiries made on a controlled platform such as YouTube or Facebook are quickly rerouted to videos and content that hold no merit. Misconceptions occur either intentionally or due to lack of research by mixing heliocentric and geocentric cosmology together, causing incoherence that pushes the viewer away from learning. Why would a lie like this exist? What purpose does this level of deception seek to gain? The hard, solid truth is that all the known space agencies and related industries have made untold amounts of money for many, many years, providing nothing but
Ja, wenn man
CGI.
Flaten der Curve auf Deutsch sucht, dann kommt meistens Corona noch über die Kurven. Unglaublich. Aber viel Spaß mit der Dokumentation. Ich habe sie selber noch nicht gesehen, also schauen wir uns an.
Fisheye lens curvature, and Hollywood-style productions as proof. The following evidence should speak for itself through the testimonies of these professionals, pilots, and witnesses. To find yourself, think for yourself. The most courageous act is to think for yourself. Our greatest wish is for minds opened, questions answered, and the reign of freedom through truth revealed.
KUKA. Immer 100 Grad kochendes, gekühltes, prickelndes und stilles Wasser aus einem Hahn. Bereiten Sie die herrlichsten Gerichte. Sowie
Good afternoon. Hey, John, how are you? Pretty good, sir. How's everything there? Everything's good. Can't complain. It's kind of windy out. Looks like it's gonna rain. But anyhow, I've been hitting these, questions regarding the flat Earth. Trying to get information out of me, and I'm not too familiar with the subject. Help me out. Yes, sir.
Hallo, wer auch immer gekommen ist, also der Flatten der Curve, den habe ich noch nie gesehen, der Documentary. Und ja, dann schauen wir uns jetzt mal an.
I'll give you a couple of relatively quick examples that you can also research and elaborate as well. Number one, I'm a pilot, and when I used to fly out of Long Island towards Nantucket, bottom line here is they're going to give you some type of formula for every 100 miles. They're going to give you some type of XYZ per kilometer squared. Keep it very, very simple. Every 100 miles will be approximately 1 mile. 1 mile is 5,280 feet. The actual number is 6666, which is of Luciferian origin, which really reveals who's behind all the conspiracy and cover-ups, for everything. But the bottom line here is a very simple formula is for every 100 miles, you have 5,280 feet, which is 1 mile of curvature. So 100 miles equals 1 mile of curvature. Now, if I'm going, let's say, hypothetically, from Long Island to Nantucket, that's about a buck and a half, about 150 miles. So it should be 1.5 miles. So let's just take a mile. So So with aviation, you fly at certain altitudes, whether you're flying in a easterly, a northeasterly, to a southwesterly direction. So hypothetically, I'm flying easterly at hypothetically about 4,000 feet, which is an even number. If you add 5,000 feet of curvature, that would be around 9,028 feet, which does not exist. So the bottom line is pilots know every 100 miles that you travel, you would be dipping the nose down to compensate for 1 mile, which is 5,280 feet of curvature. So there's the proof right there that there's something very fishy with this globe Earth situation, because scientifically it doesn't matter.
My name is Joshua Silva. I am a licensed commercial pilot and flight instructor. I have had a lifelong love of aviation and aerospace. And when growing up, I even fancied myself an amateur astronomer. I would drag my family and friends and
So it should be 1.5 miles. So let's just take 1 mile. So with aviation, you fly at certain altitudes, whether you're flying in a easterly, a northeasterly, to a southwesterly direction. So hypothetically, I'm flying easterly at hypothetically about 4,000 feet, which is an even number. If you add 5,000 feet of curvature, that would be around 9,000 feet, which does not exist. So the bottom line is pilots know every 100 miles that you travel.
My name is Joshua Silva. I am a licensed commercial pilot. I love studying the aircraft, military history, every aviation campaign and theater in almost any war. I studied religiously, and it was just out of pure passion. Later in life, many years later, I decided to become a pilot. As strange as it may sound, it hadn't occurred to me to become a pilot up to that point. I just simply loved aviation and aerospace, but I decided to become a pilot, and I began attending a prestigious flight academy in the Midwest and attending university at the same time, and to gain a degree in aeronautics and aerospace. Shortly thereafter, I began flying twin turboprop aircraft out of Northern California for several nonprofit organizations. And years after that, I found myself flight instructing for various small flight schools, both in California and in Arizona, and then on to large academies that trained for the airlines and even some military flights. Shortly thereafter, I began flying regional business jets, and that's when the story of me finding the topic of flat Earth started.
Ist ja cool, wenn so Piloten und so rauskommen, ehrlich.
Jeff Bezos lacht wahrscheinlich gerade auf seiner Yacht irgendwo an den schönsten Orten der Welt. Er hat über
Hola, mi nombre es Héctor Requena. Soy terraplanista desde el 2016. Este tema lo descubrí accidentalmente, me agradó mucho y desde ahí lo empecé a investigar. Desde ahí me di cuenta de lo que está pasando en el mundo. Yo fui aviador, me gusta más la palabra aviador que piloto. Yo volé con mi papá desde niño, él era piloto de la Fuerza Aérea Mexicana.
Bin Flat Earther, glaube ich, seit 2018. Ich habe das halt falsch gesagt, nicht 2015, sondern 2018. Sicher. Und sowas. Also vorher mit Ding anfangen, wie heißt es, mit die Twin Towers in den USA und ja, dann immer weiter tiefer runter bis flache Erde.
Un tema muy curioso que me pasó a mí fue el empezar a conocer cómo funciona el giroscopio. El giroscopio está diseñado para volar sobre un plano, sobre un terreno plano y una tierra que no se mueve. Todos estos temas me llevaron a seguir investigando. Estamos tratando de invitar a la gente a que no se cierre de mente a estos temas, ya que si no nos damos cuenta de lo que está pasando ahorita es por lo mismo, porque la gente está cerrada, se cierra a pensar fuera de la caja.
Been a military brat all my life. However, I've been in the industry of aviation for the last 21 years. And I became an FE somewhere around 15 or 16 when I really started looking at conspiracies. I looked into Benghazi because I happen to work on government contracts abroad, overseas. But I've been in aviation for 21 years, anything from helicopters to aerostats to big birds, little birds, fighter jets, things with engines, no engines, big blades, little blades, compressor blades, which, by the way, that one's not a hoax. Jets do not run only on compressed air. Contrary to popular belief, it takes compressed air in a blended ratio of air to fuel to drive the now heated gas and rotate the compressor blades. This has been a topic of discussion between FE and, not everything's a hoax. Coriolis effect. With that ties into, obviously with no spin around the axis points that they say exist at 23.4 conveniently, 66 off the 90 degrees, right? Everything ties into 666 with NASA and all the BS scientists. Our aircraft have things called ADIs, attitude direction indicator, which gives correlation between the aircraft housing or the shell around the gyro itself. The ADI is nothing more than a gyro that will always reference level. I don't care what any pilot says. I don't care what any mechanic tells you. There's a reason that pilots have one book called a pilot.
Ja, also da sieht man also die Stereoskop oder wie heißen die genau? Jetzt ein bisschen zurückgehen. Da, also die funktionieren nur auf Flachen. Das geht gar nicht anders. Ja, da haben wir ganz so schlechtes Netz heute. Jetzt habe ich den Netz ein bisschen zurück. Hilft da nichts.
It's called ADIs, attitude direction indicator, which gives correlation between the aircraft housing or the shell around the gyro itself. The ADI is nothing more than a gyro that will always reference level. I don't care what any pilot says. I don't care what any mechanic tells you. There's a reason that pilots have one book called a pilot operating handbook, and there's every other book, right? From structures to avionics to wiring diagrams to the actual components that make up these systems. That is a standalone system. The ADI does not lie. I don't care how cold it is, how high you are, and some of these guys are pretty damn high. It can't matter where you're going. It doesn't matter where you've been. It doesn't matter where you are over the realm itself.
Wenn du unser Online-Event letztes Jahr verpasst hast, welches sich zum größten Finanzevent Europas entwickelt hat, dann taucht
shape of the Earth as an engineer and a pilot. So I've studied engineering, physics, 3 different ways: basic physics, electric physics, and construction physics. And also as a pilot, as a rotary wing pilot, that is helicopter pilot, I studied aeronautical physics as well.
Respekt, dass solche Leute sich dann solche Gedanken machen, wirklich, obwohl sie so auch indoktriniert sind in einer Art und Weise, nicht, aber super.
So I can cover and discuss just about any factor of flat Earth. Not that I'm any smarter than anybody else, but I've studied quite a bit of factors that analyze shape and motion of just about any object. That's physics, also aeronautical physics, and principles of flight. I can tell you this: airplanes fly straight and level. That's even an aviation term, straight and level. Airplanes will fly for hours at the same altitude, never dipping their nose down to follow the curve of the Earth. An aircraft on a 12-hour or even 18-hour
sind
flight.
so viele Zeichen, die eben dafür sprechen. Und das sind Piloten, die haben echt Ahnung, sind gescheite Menschen, setzen viel aufs Spiel wahrscheinlich, wenn sie solche Sachen sagen. Und ja, aber trotzdem kommt das halt raus. Ne? Das ist schön zu sehen.
From Portland, Oregon to Seoul, Korea, that would have that aircraft starting at one point and then flying so far around the Earth that it's flying downwards with its nose vertically downwards, and then starting to go around the curve of the Earth so that the airplane is now flying upside down. Would have to make that kind of a flight path on a globe, which is, it's such an absurdity. So that being said, I come into the true shape of the Earth, the flat Earth, as a skeptic, like most anyone else. I'll tell you my story. My buddy told me about this. He said, Rob, you need to learn about the ice ring. You need to learn that the Earth doesn't move. This globe is garbage. And I laughed at him. I said, are you kidding me? I'm not even gonna look into that. He said, that's fine. He said, that's fine. You don't have to look into flat Earth. But until you do, he said, until you do look into flat Earth, you will remain a slave of the matrix.
Das stimmt.
And interestingly enough, at this point, this was more or less November, December 2015. I had already mentally resigned from the U.S. military for 3 years. I had already resigned because of Benghazi. I realized, and I saw for myself, I'd been working with U.S. as an Army officer, working for State Department for a good 10 years. And so what I did, I turned my physics awareness, I turned my studies into analysis of the shape of the Earth.
I have a bachelor's degree in English and international business and a master's degree in emergency management. Emergency management is an area of study that deals with lessening the effects of natural or man-made disaster. Areas I had to study related to emergency management were meteorology, geology, geography, hydrology, and oceanography. You have to know well how Earth works in order to prevent or lessen the consequences of a natural disaster. In 2019, I wrote a book called 16 Emergency Landings Proving Flat Earth. Not many people know that when I was younger, I worked for an international airline. I worked at the International Cargo and Logistics Division of the company at São Paulo International Airport. I had to know all international routes in order to provide our clients the precise information about import and exports, as well as the logistics of transporting cargo internationally. Our company transported from a simple parcel package to cars and helicopters to anywhere in the world. Having access to all areas of the airport in 1988, the Brazilian soccer team was about to board their flight towards Australia to take part of the bicentennial Soccer Cup in Australia. It was a tournament to celebrate Australia's 200th birthday. 2 South American teams were invited to take part of this tournament, Brazil and Argentina. At that time, we had access to several maps, all based on the Globe Earth model. The Brazilian squad left to Australia, a natural conclusion is that this chart charter flight was going to Australia over the Pacific Ocean, as the global model suggests. Perhaps stop in Santiago, Chile, and then head to Australia. To my surprise, the flight went to Los Angeles. For several days, I could not comprehend the reason why that flight went to Los Angeles in North America, to then go towards Australia in the Southern Hemisphere. This thing kept alive in the back of our mind for all these years.
Es gibt zwei Arten, mit AI-Tools umzugehen. Die erste ist, geh einfach rein, teste, was das kann, lustige Demo, großartig.
The Paul Hall Maritime Center out of Piney Point, Maryland. I primarily sell on container ships, tankers, drill ships, military cargo vessels, you name it, I can sell on it. I sell in the capacity of bosun. My whole title is AB Unlimited. That primarily sell deep sea and coastal, meaning up and down the coast, west coast, east coast, and deep sea is out deep sea across to other continents. What led me to the
Nice, he already got much subscribers of 40 abonnents and 63 thumbs up at the video. Nice, I really have to look. Thanks, Flaten.
The flat earth was actually my sister. We've always been into the conspiracies and the 9/11 and Sandy Hook and all that stuff. And one day she said, hey, you want to see a conspiracy? You should look into the flat earth. And I looked at her and laughed because I had seen the videos come up in the feed and they showed that disc thing in the space and I laughed at it, whatever. And she showed it to me and I laughed at her. And I went and pulled out my phone and I looked up a video. You can look it up. It's called Dragon Link FPV to Space. And what you'll see is basically an RC airplane that's been taken up about 80,000 feet. And they release it, and then the airplane comes down with power. And it has the Dragon Link system, which is capable of making controlling video. Anyways, but they had a GoPro, so you see this curved globe. And, you know, that set it for me. When I saw that, I was like, oh, wow, look at that. So I brought that down to her, put it right in her face and said, look at that. And looking back, I remember her smile on it was like, you know, okay, she wasn't going to argue with me. She said, okay. Later on, I don't know, a couple days later, whenever I seen it in there, and I said, all right, I had nothing to watch. I hit it on YouTube, and I knew within 10 minutes of it. I forget which one it was. I think it was probably one of the documentaries, but it was almost like I instantly knew. And then what happened was a lot of the proofs that I had were before I was a flat earther, such as seeing contacts at 30 miles out with the naked eye on the horizon, which is impossible on the globe model. So much so, it was me, the third officer, and the lookout. We were standing our watch, and I believe we were in the Mediterranean Sea. Look and watch and say, okay, we got a contact out there. We look and we try and get it on the radar. We get it at 30 miles out. When the chief mate came up, we had told him, hey, mate, we got a contact earlier 30 miles out. He said, bull crap. I don't believe you. And we all looked at each other and shook our heads and said, yeah, they got it. He stormed off the bridge, ran down, came back up. He had the Bowditch, which is a thick green book that's everything you ever need to know about being on the ocean, sailing, navigation, everything. And he comes up and he says, the math doesn't lie. And he slams down this piece of paper and he says, our bridge height is at 100 feet versus how far? 30 miles. It should have been behind like 600 foot of curve. I remember 600 something foot. He had all the mathematical course. I didn't know, okay, that's good. All right, he must know what he's talking about. But we're looking like, well, I don't know. We got it on the radar. Then the radar must not know what it's doing.
You can just call me Jay. That's what my friends call me. That's what I go by. I just go by Jay. My work experience, I joined the Navy when I was 17 years old. I had a secret security clearance. There's different levels of security clearance. There's a lower level, then there's a secret, which is what I had, which is like a mid-level, and then there's a top secret. I did not have a top secret clearance, so there's a lot that I don't know. But I did have a secret clearance. So it's basically the mid-level security clearance for the government that I had. And I did that job for 8 years. I worked in operational intelligence specifically. The radar navigation, there's a limited scope of what we're able to see. Now, granted, this is 15 or 20 years ago. What I mean by that is, with it being 15 or 20 years ago, the technology nowadays on the new warships, I would imagine, are just off the charts advanced compared to what we had, 20 years ago in the early 2000s when I was doing deployments for the Navy. We're looking at the scope of the radar. Now, this is just going off of the actual screen that we can see. Now, there's 3 different screens. There's the basic radar screen where we have this limited scope where it only goes out like 25 miles, right? Then there's this other bigger screen, and I forgot the name of it, but it goes onto this huge projection in the Combat Information Center. Basically is where all of the information is housed. And on this huge screen, we can actually zoom out and see a significant portion of our area of responsibility. I can't say the exact number. Again, a lot of this is classified. Basically, when we zoom out onto this large projectile screen, it goes in and out, right? So the reason why we're able to zoom in and then pull back out is just for accuracy. So if we're looking at something that could just be like a buoy in the water, right? Just one of the little tiny buoys that the ships can use as kind of placements to track where they're going, that can be mistaken for an actual small watercraft. So we have to be able to differentiate between that and some of the ships that we're looking for, because some of the deployments we're on, we're out there looking for drug ships, we're looking for other types of ships, submarines, basically just to keep a track of everything. That's basically what the Navy and Coast Guard do. They want to make sure that they know what's going on in the seas, and that's kind of the way the United States Navy operates. They're basically dictating what happens in international waters.
I will be providing my in-depth experience of U.S. Navy submarines and how they prove we do not live on a globe Earth. However, due to the nature of my job and the security clearance that I hold, I wish to remain anonymous. I've worked for the U.S. Department of the Navy as a submarine quality assurance specialist for the last 5 years. My job is to ensure that each submarine is built properly, safely, and to the engineer's plan. I have an intimate knowledge of every aspect of each submarine being built in the shipyard I work in. Now that you've heard a little bit of my background, let me explain how I arrived at the crazy notion that the Earth is visibly and observably flat. I have always questioned the reality around me since I was little. I never followed anything mainstream, and I was never interested in what the news had to say. As I got older, I started looking into more and more things out of my own curiosity. 9/11, school shootings. I eventually started researching the moon landing because it just never sat well with me. And it didn't take long for me to completely unravel that for the hoax that it is. After that, I was starting to realize that we had been lied to on so many levels. What else could there possibly be? Then I saw a video about the flat Earth pop up on my YouTube recommendations. At first, even with my awakened mind, I thought this was absolutely ridiculous. I decided that I'd look into it simply to disprove it and move on. It should be right? That was over 6 years ago, and I still can't disprove the flat Earth. In fact, the more I research it, the more it reveals. This leads me into my submarine experience. Looking back on everything I had accomplished while on active duty with eyes to see, has only served to solidify my stance that we live on a flat.
Now we are flat earthler. Very nice.
The theory of more land being hidden on Earth as one of the possible motives to hide the fact that the Earth is not a spinning water ball corkscrew through space is something that many flat earthers have postulated over the years. And I just couldn't shake the concept from my mind, where just like Rear Admiral Richard Byrd suggested during his Antarctic expedition, Operation Highjump.
Das ist eine Sternglas. Die kostet 199 €, hat ein extrem langlebiges Uhrwerk, das beste Uhrenglas der Welt und ein super elegantes Bauhausdesign. Moin, ich bin Dustin, der Gründer von Sternglas. Ich habe Sternglas gegründet, weil ich eine Uhr erschaffen wollte, die von ganz normalen Menschen im Alltag problemlos getragen werden kann. Die aber trotzdem so hochwertig entwickelt wurde, dass auch echte Kenner nichts zu meckern haben. Und genau das habe ich geschafft. Dazu verkaufen wir bei Sternglas direkt an unsere Kunden, um unnötig hohe Preisaufschläge zu vermeiden. So bleiben diese Bauhausuhren auch langfristig für jeden erschwinglich. Das sind einfach Uhren für Menschen, die ihren Zeitmesser nicht im Tresor einschließen, sondern wirklich tragen wollen. Und das eben schon ab 199 €. Ein unschlagbarer Preis, hochwertige Verarbeitung und durchdachte Designs für jeden Anlass. Es gibt jetzt wirklich keinen Grund mehr, dir keine Sternglas zu kaufen. Also klick jetzt auf den Button um das Video und hol dir dein Lieblingsmodell.
Eine vollwertige Mahlzeit in nur 3 Minuten für 3,58 €. Genau das bekommst du bei Löwenanteil. Es ist bei uns allen das.
But there is undiscovered land on Earth. And that possibility spawned an idea to write The Elusive Curve, a modern-day quest to discover another world. The Elusive Curve is a fictional novel created to convey a very non-fictional message, that the Earth is a flat, motionless, level plane devoid of any curvature. When Max Carter discovers irrefutable proof of the true shape of the Earth, the course of his life drastically changes, and he becomes a man obsessed, convinced that there is more land being hidden beyond Antarctica, and that he is going to reach it. The Elusive Curve debunks typical globe Earth claims, including ships disappearing over the horizon due to the curve of the Earth, the Foucault's pendulum, and the Coriolis effect, whilst presenting flat Earth proofs like visual perspective, level water over vast distances, and long-distance photography, all within the context of Max's varied and colourful relationships.
Also, there's a semi-classified naval communication device when ships are communicating ship to ship on the ocean, U.S. Navy, semi-classified laser communication NAVCOM device, which also does data as well. So if they're communicating with ships 70 miles, 100 miles or more, like I said, every 100 miles is a mile of curvature. So it wouldn't work because lasers operate line of sight. They operate in a straight line. There's no curvature to the laser. So the bottom line here is the naval NAVCOM classified, semi-classified system that they use to communicate ship to ship, that operates on a laser, and if there was curvature, anything over, like I said, 100 miles is flat down 280 feet of curvature, and the ship's diameter is nowhere near that, which you know. So there's another example, the naval NAVCOM communication device. Also, there's a woman female KLH pilot. KLH, Dutch Commercial Airlines, she got fired from her job a while back for questioning this issue. Now, they didn't throw around the company, but they gave her like a desk job, so this way they kind of keep her out of quiet and they can control this. She's a very sane and rational woman. If they ask her, what happened, she starts talking, it's going to raise serious questions. So we got the KLH pilot, we got the laser NAVCOM, U.S. Navy. We've got my personal experience flying from Long Island to Bangkok. That should be at least 5,280 feet of curvature, added to the 4,000 altitude average while heading easterly. So there's something very wrong there. The numbers don't work.
Could the Earth actually be flat? I began to see opinions and arguments that seemed logical, but I heard several arguments, which I now know were most likely disinformation, easily disprovable in the aviation world, but there were some that stuck with me. And so, myself being the way I am, I ran quickly, metaphorically, to my old textbook, and I opened my old textbooks, found them, unpacked them, cracked them all open, and even downloaded brand new copies in PDF form offline of all these books to make sure that nothing had been changed. I thought for certain that I knew exactly what compensation pilots are trained while flying to compensate for the spin or the rotation of the Earth, for instance. As far as falling around a globe, I assumed in my mind would be an aircraft's angle of attack. But upon more study, I found that not to be true. The angle of attack being the angle between the aircraft's flight path and the relative wind, which is something that pilots are very familiar with. And it's the idea that an aircraft has to be slightly pitched up, essentially to stay airborne, or a surface of that aircraft has to be pitched slightly to create a difference in air pressure to hold the aircraft aloft. And that is assumed, or was assumed at that time by myself and the pilots, to be the compensation one would make for falling around a globe while flying, period. But upon further research, I found that this was not the case, and it was not even mentioned anywhere. This compensation was not mentioned anywhere I could find in any resource that I had gone to flight school with. And they were extensive. There were many, many books, especially as one progressed towards the commercial flying side, especially elective courses, especially if you're going to university as I was studying aerospace, then you would assume, and I had assumed, that this was calculated for.
Again, as far as ADIs, in every aircraft, it references the level horizon or references sea level always. There's no way that you can convince somebody of sound mind that if you take off from New York and immediately flip upside down, now your housing or your ADI is referencing upside down to you because you're upside down. It's right side up. It cannot deviate off level. It doesn't matter how much fuel you got in your tank.
Yeah, you see
It doesn't matter
how
if you're a
deceived
helicopter
the
or an
people are.
aerostat
Da
or a
sieht man,
fighter
wie die
jet.
Leute im Internet
That gauge will always reference level. It has to, because otherwise it would be a poor reference. And if you could manipulate it, why would you even have it in the airplane or your aircraft? But if you go take off 2 miles away, do a barrel roll, you're now flying upside down. At what point does that gauge show you back right side up? A half a hemisphere away? Is that what we're led to believe? Is that what we're supposed to believe? At what point does it right itself if you never flipped back over and continue flying level? You see what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous to think that thing compensates for curvature in straight and level flight.
The big one that is oftentimes quoted is compensation for Coriolis effect while flying. And this is something I'd even taught my students about, and it's always assumed to be correct. We just assume. We're given the narrative from a young age, and everything is built upon that assumption, upon that theory. And so I thought I had the silver bullet. Coriolis effect. We always calculate for that. Well, as I began to look through the books and to look into the calculations given for Coriolis effect, the narrative began to fall apart even further. I began to see things I didn't notice when I was in school, such as Coriolis effect is actually never calculated for, but is assumed to be a part of wind correction angle. Wind correction angle is one of the many calculations pilots of all kinds make while flying to correct against winds in whatever volume or section of air they're flying through, which it could be from any direction and you're flying through it, so you have to compensate a certain angle into that wind to hold a straight line.
KUKA. Immer 100 Grad kochendes,
Ja,
gekühltes,
die
prickelndes
Werbung.
und stilles
Und
Wasser
wenn
aus
wir
einem
einsteigen,
Hahn.
Leute, gell, also der Link ist gratis, einfach anklicken und das jetzt dabei.
Interesting side note, I worked on aerostats for several years, and I always ask people who try
Hat
to
jetzt
bring up
irgendwelche Fragen oder was?
gravity, well, how come my 4,000 pound, 74,000 cubic foot aerostat isn't getting pushed towards the ground? It weighs more than you do, which you believe gravity is pushing you down, right? Because these are some dense ass people. But how come the aerostat's not getting driven into the ground? It weighs more. It's definitely larger than the size of a house. It's more than most size of most houses. So why isn't it getting driven to the ground? Well, that's because it's displacing less weight than the atmosphere or the medium that it's in. And I try explaining that. I don't know how many times you've probably posted something on this. I don't know how many times we're going to have to post something on this. But every time that little kid lets go of that helium balloon and starts crying,
Radar is simply another form of radio transmission. Radio includes anything within the range of the electromagnetic spectrum. Electromagnetic spectrum, also known as light. Radio is the transmission of light, whether it's visible light or radio waves, which are not visible. When it comes to radio transmissions, there must be a transmitter and a receiver. There can be a reflector or a transmittal unit along the way. However, in the end, there's got to be at least transmitter and a receiver. And in the case of radar, radar transmits a signal and it bounces off a reflector and then it comes back to the receiving station. Or it can go to other stations if they're set up in the network properly. Long story short, it returns to a receiving unit, and the receiving unit maps that reflection accordingly. If there is no reflector, then there's no return signal, and then the object does not show up on the radar. For example, it's off the screen. Notice there's no curving around anything. It goes out in a straight line. Radio signals always travel in a straight line. So the transmitter sends the signal out to the target, bounces off, and it comes back in a straight line. Radar cannot travel over the curve, and hence radar is dependent on line of sight, direct beam from the transmission to the
So Jungs, also soweit einmal zum Dokumentarfilm Flatten the Curve. Jetzt ist einmal ziemlich Halbzeit, also ich werde es jetzt stoppen und werde zu einem anderen Stream gehen. Seid mal nicht böse, es ist schon ein bisschen später, deswegen machen wir einen Teil 2 draus. Und ich werde euch definitiv einen Link später ins Video reinhauen. Bitte abonniert den, es ist ein Österreicher. Und ja, was der Sharing is Caring, also bitte ja unbedingt eben liken und eben abonnieren. Gell? Schaut mal, schaut, was ich denn gibt noch. So, da, okay, cool. Flat Earth is not a problem when I share the channel with other people. It's okay for you. Just it's nobody in, but maybe one time we'll watch it and then he got the link from your Austrian friend. I put it now in the comment list, yes. Also jeder den Kanal bitte, das ist ja eben ein Österreicher und hat auch mehr Abos wie ich, ist auch größer ein bisschen und hat mehr Followers. Also schaut ihn an, ja, und danke, dass ihr heute dabei wart. Ich bin schon ein bisschen müde, aber ich gehe noch vielleicht in einen anderen rüber. Habt einen schönen Abend, ja, und danke fürs Dabeisein. Ein Lied kriegt's noch von mir, meine Güte, das muss sein, Alter. Das muss einfach sein. Wurscht, ob wir einen Strike kriegen oder nicht. Warte mal, das ist es einfach wert.
Der beste Rasierer von Braun. Der Series 9 Pro Plus mit Reinigungsstation.
So, ein Video und dann.
Ultimativ gründlich. Egal ob 1, 3 oder 7 Tage Bad. Für eine spürbar glatte Haut. Der Braun Series 9 Pro Plus. Hergestellt in Deutschland mit 5 Jahren Garantie.
Maximaler Geschmack in jeder Schicht. Max deinen Moment mit Milka Max.
The man with the suits and the tie looks me dead in the eye, and he lies. Yeah, he lies. Then the woman with the makeup and the blouse beams right into my house, and she lies. Yes, she lies. The man wants me to be scared. The man making me see red, 'cause I know that he lies. Yeah, he lies. Then the woman with the beautiful eyes is no longer beautiful, because I realize that she lies. Yes, she lies. Well, you ain't welcome round here no more. Down this road too many times before. This the last time you ever cast your spell. You fooled me once, so shame on you. Won't fool me twice, 'cause I see right through the oh so many lies you always tell. From the north to the east, to the west to the south, you cover much ground with your filthy mouth and your lies. Yeah, you're lying. You lie so much you believe yourself. The day you tell the truth will be a cold day in hell. I despise all those lies. Well, you ain't welcome round here no more. Been down this road too many times before. This the last time you ever cast your spell. You fooled me once, so shame on you. Won't fool me twice, 'cause I see right through the oh so many lies you always tell. Well, we the people see what you do with your plastic smiles and your auto cues and those lies. Yeah, those lies. How much longer can you hide the truth when this lion wakes? It's gonna eat you and your lies. Yeah, your lies. Well, you ain't welcome round here no more. Been down this road too many times before. This the last time you ever cast your spell. You fooled me once, so shame on you. Won't fool me twice, 'cause I see right through the so many lies you always tell. The man with the suit and the tie looks me right dead in the eye, and he lies. Yeah, he lies.
Bravo, Leute. War spitze. So. Entschuldige, noch ein Spiel nicht. Also, es gibt einen Teil 2. Okay? Und vielen Dank. Jamming was out. Habt einen schönen Abend. Und ich gehe jetzt erstmal was essen, was Gutes. Also Leute, es gibt einen Teil 2 davon, gell, von Flaten the Curve. Okay, haut's rein, habt's einen schönen Abend. Euer German Good, ciao.